Hello and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast, bringing you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. I'm Ben, and as always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor. Before we begin, you can jump around the podcast by using the timestamps in the description below. Conor, how are we doing?
Ups and downs, mate. Ups and downs. We'll leave it at that, I think.
Yeah, we've already discussed this off the podcast.
Actually, you know what? Go on. We will go into this. So, for those of you who aren't aware, I suffer with a health condition called functional neurological disorder, which basically, I say basically, there's nothing basically about the condition. So, the nerves in my body do not communicate correctly with my brain. So the signals get misinterpreted. So I can have random spats of pain, random spats of tremors, seizures when it comes to the absolute worst. You get like brain fog, you forget words. You can walk into a room and just completely be blank on what you were doing there. It's a really horrible condition. I actually had a meeting today with the head of an FND charity.
Oh, really?
The hope being, well, I used to work with them a couple of years ago before COVID, and I sort of re-met up with them today, looking to do a charity stream with them soon. So hopefully get to raise some awareness and raise some money to help people who are suffering with my condition.
That's great news. I know that you've done charity streams before, haven't you?
Yeah, we did one for Mind last year.
Yes. Because I remember popping in and out of that. Did you get many donations for the charity?
We made £1,000, over £1,000.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. Wow.
You know, so that's the baseline we're aiming for this year.
Yeah, and now you've got more subscribers and everything else. So who knows? Maybe you'll be able to, reach an even higher goal this time.
That's certainly the hope. But yes, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right. Yeah. I'm tired more than anything because since having my own wedding, I've been to another wedding. So I went to another wedding on Tuesday, which was absolutely fantastic. And you know what? It was great because I didn't have to worry about anything. I could just go. I could enjoy the food, play Jenga, had some drinks. Just overall, just had a really good day. And you know what? The hangover yesterday wasn't too shabby. It wasn't the worst hangover I've ever had. But hangovers are never nice.
Can we address the Jenga? What do you mean you were playing Jenga?
We were just playing Jenga. There was like an outdoor Jenga. There was loads of...
Well, like big Jenga.
Yeah, big Jenga. So there was loads of like children's entertainment because there was about 6 or 7 children there. But as always, when there's adults drinking, like they just take over the games, don't they? So I played Jenga. There was Connect 4. I completely forgot that I never got to play Connect 4. So that was quite good fun. There's a couple of photos of me and my best man Matt playing Jenga, and the look of concentration on our faces playing this game, just like after a few bevies, just like trying to figure this out. It was just a great day all round, to be quite honest.
See, I've played big Jenga before. I think one of the pub gardens we used to go to had big Jenga out the back, and I distinctly remember my sister playing it, pulling, and the whole tower just collapsed on top of her. She was only 12 at the time as well.
Well, this was huge. Like it's not your typical table Jenga. It's like you say,
no, it's like outdoor 4 or 5 foot.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. And at one point, there's this 1-year-old playing with it. So I'm like, Ooh, okay, right. Is someone watching this, kid? Because if that goes over, there were heavy blocks as well. They weren't like plastic around. They were proper wooden blocks.
Big wooden blocks, yeah.
Yeah. So, but thankfully, nobody died at the wedding. So, I was trying to come up with a segue, but I haven't got a segue this week, so I feel like I've already failed. But the big news this week is more Pokemon Scarlet and Violet news. I think we're going to be getting more and more of this as we get closer to the release date. But the main bit of news is the introduction of Grafaiai. I think I'm pronouncing
Grafaiai, yes.
Grafaiai. Which I'm disappointed. Right, the reason I'm disappointed is because if we'd have done this podcast, recorded this podcast yesterday rather than today as originally planned, I basically narrowed it down going, this is a lemur Pokemon. And then you sent me that video and I'm like, oh, right, I'm a bit disappointed. I thought I was bringing something to the podcast like I've got a theory. It's a lemur Pokemon.
So how did you get there?
So over 3 days, they released 3 pieces of information. So the first one was 3 individual photos with
4.
There was 3 on the first day.
There was 4.
Oh, no, sorry. No, I'm reading it top to bottom rather than bottom to top. Yes, you're right. There was 4, then there was 3, then there was a trailer. So watching the original 4 photos, I got nothing from that. All I saw was the bullseyes, and then there was one that wasn't a bullseye. It was like, stripes.
Rings around a tree.
Yes. So from that, I didn't get anything from it other than maybe we're getting a regional form of something that can shoot some kind of darts or Decidueye maybe with arrows. So I was thinking,
I think the best theories I had coming off the back of that was like regional Smeargle, which I wasn't convinced about because I don't think we're ever going to see Smeargle in the games again. I think because of Sketch, because it's just too busted as far as competitive is concerned, they just won't bring Smeargle back. So I wasn't convinced by that. There was thoughts that it had to do with a certain forest within Spain, in the north of Spain, where they paint all the trees.
Right,
I really like that idea.
So my original thought around like some kind of Pokemon that has accuracy-based attacks or whatever it might be is maybe that's one of the 3 methods of playing the game, because you've got one of the trees where the rings go around it kind of looks like a flag. So, I was thinking, you wave a flag to start and end the race. And I know it's usually checkered, but like if it was based on, countries or something like that, might show their country. So maybe they were the colors of the new region. And maybe one of the 3 ways to play the game was some kind of, accuracy shooting kind of, archery, something like that. That's kind of... on the Tuesday when we released even more photos, and again we had the rings around the trees, and I was like, okay, right, I think this is something to do with racing, and perhaps we are going to slowly get the introduction of more racing Pokemon. So it isn't just whatever the legendary you get and the Dragon Normal that we spoke about last week that I've forgotten the name of. Cyclizar. That's it. But the difference between the first set of photos and the second set of photos is you can see a silhouette of a Pokemon in them. And there was one of them doesn't really look like the Pokemon. It looks like a Jigglypuff, to be honest with you, with its ear and round body. But the other 2, I was looking at, I was like, they look like some kind of lemur, and then the name was released. Grafaiai, and straight away I was like, I know what Pokemon are like. They typically, whenever they come up with a name, there's a reason behind that name, and it's either based on real world animals or it's a pun on its typing or its element that it uses. So I was like, okay, let's just type in animal into Google, and one of the things that came up with is a lemur that is native to Madagascar called the Aye, but it's spelled Aye. And I was like, okay, right, let's have a look at this. And characterized by its unusual method of finding food, it taps on trees to find grub, then gnaws holes in the wood using its forward slanting and scissors to create a small hole into which it inserts a narrow middle finger to pull the grubs out. So that's straight from Wikipedia around this creature. And you know what? If that was a Pokedex entry, after seeing the reveal, that could also be for this Pokemon, because they are... I don't know if you've seen this animal, but they look so alike, like ridiculously alike. So it's obvious that is where the inspiration has come from. So I was a bit disappointed that I didn't get to have this grand reveal of, I think I know what it is, but it's good to know that
you would have been right.
I would have been right. So I'm quite happy with that. And then today, today is in the day of recording this podcast, we got the actual reveal of the Pokemon in a trailer.
We did indeed. They did a really nice trailer for this one. It was like a researcher studying the forest and trying to capture images of this wild Grafaiai roaming around, which reminded me a lot of when they did the Zorua reveal for Legends Arceus.
Remind me of that, because I don't know it.
So they released initially a sort of found footage video, and it was all destroyed and you couldn't really make out what was going on. of this person walking through like in the icy tundra, and then it gets attacked by a Pokemon. And then a couple of days later, they released the sort of recovered footage of it, which was you saw this researcher going out into the tundras of Hisui and being attacked by a Hisuian Zoroark. And it was really cool. It was really creepy.
I like that. I like that they're leaning into this. It feels like the old marketing that they used to do to release these games. From what I can remember from a kid, it was always about catching them all, which is a very American and Europe thing. Apparently, they got to catch them all.
That was never a thing over in Japan.
No, it wasn't. And it's something that they've moved. Like, I don't think it's been on any of the boxes since Gen 2. I think was the last one, maybe 3. What it was either Gen 2 or 3.
I think it was Gen 3 because you physically couldn't. Because you couldn't trade Pokemon over to it.
Yes, you
couldn't catch them all anymore.
No, so they moved away from it. Whereas it feels like from the limited marketing stuff that I've seen since I got back into Pokemon, the marketing tends to be more around, look at this new Pokemon, look at this exciting, new typing that we're bringing, and it's more of a focus on, at least at this stage, it's less about the trailers and more about, let's just release individual Pokemon to get people excited, because it's like this Pokemon could be someone's least favorite Pokemon. It could be someone's favorite Pokemon. That's the great thing about Pokemon, is for every person that goes, I hate that Pokemon, you've got someone on the opposite end going, I love that Pokemon. And you know what? Might look at that and think, you know what? That's tipped me over the edge. I've gone from, I'm not that fussed about the next generation to, I love that Pokemon. And I think one thing that kind of solidifies my thought around that is when the first initial kind of, well, it wasn't the true trailer, I don't think, but it was kind of a teaser for the Gen 9 starters came out. And Twitter, Reddit, YouTube was ablaze with, Fuecoco and Quaxley, and I always forget the grass type kitten one. And people just being, people weren't really talking about the game. They were talking about the Pokemon.
Naturally.
Which makes sense. Don't get me wrong. It makes sense. But for me, it's absolutely amazing that, the first instance when they release information, it's never really about the gameplay or the region. It's about, look at these cool new Pokemon designs, and people just want the Pokemon all of a sudden. And
naturally. Yeah.
And it makes them go, you know what, actually, I've gone for, and I fell into this trap with Gen 8. I remember seeing the trailers and thinking, oh, okay, it looks all right. There were a few things that, a couple of red flags. But I must admit, seeing Score Bunny and going, kind of want the game just for Score Bunny now. it just tips me over the edge every time.
Hashtag Grookey Gang.
Grookey Gang. Oh, you're a Grookey fan, were you?
I was a Grookey fan. Still am.
Still are, right, okay. See, that's what I mean. For every, that's probably my least favorite of the Gen 8 stars, but it's your favorite, and it just gets people into Pokemon, just being able to relate to one of the Mons and going, I want that Pokemon, and therefore I want the game.
I like it a lot. I will bring us back onto Grafaiai and say that it's given me a lot of hope. More so than I think any Pokemon previously has done so for this game.
How come?
Now, we spoke a couple of weeks ago about our hopes for Gen 9 and Pokemon going forward. Yep. And one of the big things I brought up was the fact that I wanted to see these Pokemon interacting with each other in the wild.
Yeah.
Now, there was, when Paldea and Wooper got announced,
yes,
it was written on the website that Pokemon around Paldea and Wooper may be poisoned. Which is kind of okay, will we actually find wild poison Pokemon and have that as a sign that Paldea and Wooper is about? That's really cool. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But now we've got Grafaiai, who, so the Pokemon website suggests that, it's got this paint residue, mucus, venom from its mouth that it licks onto its hands and then paints it onto the tree. This venom gives off a sweet scent, attracts bugs, the bugs get paralyzed, and then it comes over and eats them later on. So it's a nocturnal creature, which means we should only be able to find it at night.
So day-night cycle may be confirmed.
Day-night cycle, we can only hope. Pretty sure we've seen that in trailers that there's already a day-night cycle.
So
But hopefully we can see it only come out at night.
yes.
And then at night, we should see these paint markings appear on trees.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really cool if that's something they've implemented, that like, you know, these Pokemon are alive. They are they're doing their own thing even when you're not around. And it'll be a way to find. So for instance, you can go early, just before it's about to become dawn, and you'll find a Grafaiai by the painted trees because they've come back to eat the bugs. But if you go there in the middle of the night, you'll find frozen scatterbugs who are already paralyzed.
I like that.
If that's the way it works,
yes.
if they really implemented that, this might be my favorite Pokemon game of all time. Because that's all I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
Was just to let the Pokemon world feel alive.
Yes. And they've been making steps towards that. So Sword and Shield, it was before that. Let's go, Pokemon the Overworld. Okay, right, step in the right direction. Pokemon Sword and Shield didn't really do much to develop that further, unfortunately. But Legends Arceus took it in a step further. It felt like simply because Pokemon had a few more animations, such as, just sleeping. And then maybe this is the next step, like you say, and I can't see us doing it for all Pokemon, but maybe the new Pokemon, that's how they get them to stand out. Like you say, you go to an area with the new variant of Wooper, and Pokemon that you find there are poisoned. Maybe this one, you go to a tree during the day and, they all have these rings around them, nothing special. But every now and again, you might see a random tree that has like the marking of Grafaiai on it. And you go, okay, make a note of that. I'll come back at night and I'll be able to find it. Or it could be a case that, you see it on a tree and go, okay, there's probably a Pokemon sleeping in that. It's probably because it's nocturnal. You can, headbutt the tree or whatever it is. Grafaiai falls down. It's asleep because it would be asleep during the day because it's a nocturnal Pokemon. I'm hoping and I'm optimistic that, everything that you're wishing for, because I'm also wishing for it, comes to pass. I want Pokemon to really feel alive in the overworld. And from what we've seen in the trailers, it looks like that is where we are heading. Now, I will say with the day-night cycle, I can't think the last time we had a proper day-night cycle, because I'm pretty sure in Sword and Shield, it's just, as you progress the story and end up in certain places, it kind of changes from day to dusk or whatever.
Legends. Legends had a day-night cycle.
Didn't it?
In fact, Legends had technically a monthly cycle as well, because the moon phases changed.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Because that's how you get Ursaluna. Right, okay, so... okay. Now I'm even more... I was a bit like, okay, day-night. Are we going to get that back? But actually, you know what? After Legends Arceus, maybe we do.
I really, really hope so. And in fact, now that I'm thinking about this, so I think we mentioned before there was a previous trailer where you had a Slacking surrounded by a bunch of Vigoroth.
Yes.
If you had, say, the instance of you walk up, and if you can, like, avoid the Vigoroth, you're fine. But the Vigoroth will come out and attack you because they're Vigoroth. But the Slacking will stay asleep, and it'll just ignore you until you defeat too many Vigoroth, and then it'll stand up and come after you. Like, that's the kind of thing that's really cool and would really make this experience something different.
Yeah. Have you ever... I think we've spoken about this before. Breath of the Wild has a lot of these mechanics where, I wonder what would happen if I do this. And then you do it and you realize, they've, like, programmed, like, boulders falling down a hill and running into people. Or, finding somewhere and going, there's a lot of grass there. I've lit the grass on fire. Wait, I can light on fire. I can then use that to get higher on whatever his glider is and things like that, where... There's so many instances in Breath of the Wild where you do something and thinking, okay, that would be neat if it does it. And then the developers have programmed it in. Are we going to see more of that in Gen 9 where, you end up somewhere, you do something and, something happens as a result of it? Like going in tall grass might chase Pokemon out of it, for example. Or you throw, I don't know, you see a boulder on a hill, you roll it down, it goes into the water, and all of a sudden a fish Pokemon pops out because you've knocked it out with the boulder. That's the next step, surely, isn't it? Like, you go from, okay, we've got Pokemon in the overworld, okay, now Pokemon are behaving like like they are alive in the overworld to, okay, things that you do interact with the Pokemon in the overworld to take it to that next step. So we've got a real, or like it'll basically feel real then, which I think is something that has definitely been lacking for the modern generation of Pokemon games.
Yeah, you bring in those elements from like Pokemon Snap, where
Yes.
it's like, oh, well, if I throw something at that magic carpet, it'll knock it into the waterfall and it'll climb up the waterfall and become a Gyarados.
Yeah.
Those kind of things where me being there actually changes the environment.
Yeah. I'd love more of that, to be quite honest with you. And like looking at have you seen the? I'm pretty sure you sent me the link actually. Yeah, you did. The information about the new Pokemon in terms of straight away just reading that gives me an inkling about how its abilities going to work. Basically, it says that when it senses danger, its poisonous saliva becomes even more toxic, and then it goes on to talk about the saliva changes color depending on what the Pokemon eats to attack foes by spitting at them or slashing at them. So I'd imagine that's where the painting comes from. It's dependent on which berries that it eats and how it reacts with its saliva. But in terms of its ability then, surely it has something where maybe it's similar to Spit Up, where depending on the berry you give it, so if you give it the berry that usually cures paralysis, maybe it paralyzes the foe.
That's a lovely idea. Its abilities are Unburden or Poison Touch.
Are you kidding me? Right. Are you serious?
Sorry, buddy.
They could have gone with something that just ties in with the information about this Pokemon and how it acts and behaves. What does Unburden do again?
Unburden, it makes your speed go faster if you consume an item.
Oh, I'm so disappointed by that. Like, they could have come up with a newer bit. Like, surely, if you're going to introduce a new Pokemon, that's when you want to go, okay, what are some quirky new abilities that we could give it, especially if it had an ability that would react with, the stockpile, Spit Up, and I always forget the Swallow, those three moves and how it works with the berries as well. Like, it'd be great if it did something like that, but
It could also be a new move. Let's not forget that. It could be. So you've got like, I think Natural Gift is a move that does different things or is a different type depending on what berry you have. So you could have an element of that.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, the idea that, it's just got different paint just depending on what berries are available in the trees around it.
Yeah. Do you think we could potentially get some, in the past we've had Vivillon that has different colors different patterns. Do you think we could get something similar to this based on, where you catch it or seasons or something and the berries that are available? Or is that wishing too much?
It's certainly possible, but I would have thought that's usually the Pokemon's gimmick, as it were. So they release that information with it.
True. That's so. One last thing then. I've got one last thing. What do you think of its typing? So it's poison normal.
Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
Have we had poison normal before?
Not to my knowledge.
No, I can't think of poison normal. So it's nice that we are starting to slowly whistle out those final typings that haven't been utilized yet.
Yeah, I think ground fighting is one of the big ones that I know we haven't had, and then there's like normal ghost and stuff like that, which I don't know how they're ever going to do a normal ghost.
I don't know. Those two kind of conflict a little bit, but Firegrass is another one we've not had, and after doing the recent cage lock, I can understand why, because it is so busted, because so many of its weaknesses are countered by its secondary typing. It's absolutely busted. But I quite like poison normal. When sometimes you look at a Pokemon and just go, yeah, that typing fits. Like, that typing just fits for this one. I think it just works really, really nicely. What do you think about its overall design then?
I like it. Now, I knew what an II was before this Pokemon came out.
Did
you ever used to play Super Monkey Ball?
No, I didn't.
So Super Monkey Ball was a game I used to play back in the day. You are a monkey inside of a ball. I know it sounds
Super
like
Monkey
a big
Ball.
like a big hamster ball.
Yes.
And like those marble runs you get.
Yes.
Where you got to get the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
It's effectively that, but on 3D and you're in the ball, so you got to control it from inside. And the main character of that was an eye. So
Right.
I'd seen the creature before, and I was like, how far are you going to go with it? Because eyes are creepy. They got
they are.
long, big
Those
middle
fingers,
and they got weird eyes. And they stuck with the middle finger, which
Yeah, they
fair
did.
play to them.
Yeah.
Fair play to them. Yeah, I like it. Its eyes are a little bit odd to me.
They've grown on me. The eyes in the trailer look worse than the character model in game that I've seen. Definitely looks better in game, and I think that's always been a difficulty for Pokemon is when they try to make them too realistic. You get a point where it's almost like, okay, we in game it looks okay, and then you've got the complete other end where you've got like Pokemon in the movie Detective Pikachu, where they implement things like fur that Pokemon would have and saliva and stuff like that, and both of those work in their respective, media, like the way that you put the media across. But then there's that awkward middle ground where they try to bring up, like this trailer, for example, where you look at it and go, that Pokemon would have fur, and it doesn't have fur, and therefore it doesn't and it doesn't have the right glare, and the eyes don't work, unfortunately, in the trailer. But in the actual in-game, you can see, like, it's obviously got its big beady eyes, and then you can see the I don't know the technical term for it, but where you can see where the light's kind of shining on it, and it works. Like the image I'm looking at now works really well. I really do like it. So I'll be in. This is one of those normal type Pokemon where typically I usually box normal type Pokemon quite early on in my run through, simply because I like the diversity. This is one where I'm thinking, actually, I might use this one. I like the design of it. The more I look at it, the more I'm finding myself that I like it. I like the contrast between the darker elements of the Pokemon design and then the bright pink and blues as well. I love it.
There's also, in one of the trailers, we got a bunch of trainers, and one of the trainers is in a big yellow overall suit with a sort of spray mask on.
Oh, okay.
So that'll almost certainly be on their team.
Right, okay.
Maybe a new artist class of Pokemon, artist class of trainer.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Grafaiai on their team.
That would work really well. I would like that. So shall we move on to what their strategy seems to be in terms of building hype for this game?
So, yeah, we wanted to talk about the marketing for this generation versus the previous one, simply because, we are now talking about a new Pokemon, which is great. But when we started this podcast 13 weeks ago, which episode is this?
This is
12?
13.
This is 13. So when we started this podcast 13 weeks ago, we were like, it's fine. Scarlet and Violet's coming out. We're going to have something to talk about every single week.
Right?
And we've not. There has been 13 Pokemon released for Scarlet and Violet so far. That's it. Now, you consider something like Sun and Moon, where basically you had new information on a weekly basis, if not bi-weekly kind of thing. Talking about these new regional forms, this is new mechanics, this is this, and you just got all of the information released before the game came out. Sword and Shield, they kind of held back ever so slightly because they were trying to not let on that, they weren't given the full national decks until that interview came out, at which point they were like, yeah, just give them loads of information. But we've not seen the evil team.
No.
We've not seen, I'm trying to think. We've not seen any starter evolutions at all, even second stage.
No.
We've not seen most of the gym leaders. Technically, we've seen one gym leader confirmed.
Yes. Well, we've not seen the. They've mentioned that there's 3 ways to play the game. We
don't know what 2 of them are.
Don't know what 2 of them are. We kind of. They kind of gave a half answer as to what one of them could potentially be around the treasure hunt, but it wasn't. It's not like they said, okay, one of the ways is a treasure hunt. It was like, oh, you're going around collecting treasure, but it was like, was that just a side quest? Is that something that you just do on the side? And then the whole racing thing that hasn't been confirmed as one of the 3 ways, has it?
Nope, nothing.
No.
So I'm really interested into why are they holding so much back? And I'm still convinced there's going to be something to do with time travel in here. There's maybe not time travel, but at least time is a motif.
Theme.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Theme.
Thank you. God, it's one of those days. I apologize. It's certainly a theme in here, giving Koraidon a Miraidon, but we've seen nothing to do with that yet. We've seen no, like, out-of-time Pokemon. We've seen nothing that says, oh, this area is full of a bunch of fossil Pokemon. There's been none of that.
There hasn't. There's been the initial... There was the initial trailer, wasn't there, where there was that guy going through, like, a museum or something like that, and that was when we got the starters released. Was there anything else released at that point? I can't remember.
That was starters and kind of like a first see of the region.
Yeah.
And we got the main character designs.
Yeah.
And then the next one we got, like, you get to change your clothes. You got the legendaries. The box art legendaries you got on that one.
Yeah.
And Lechonk, Smoliv.
Yes.
Paldean Wooper was in that one, I think.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I can't remember.
Or Paldean. Yeah, I think. Yeah, because they did. Yes, I believe so. Let's go back. Let's have a look. Have a look at the Pokemon. Here you go. I'm on the website.
Oh,
so, yeah, you had 3 starters. The 2 box art legendaries. Lechonk, Pawmi, and Smoliv.
Right.
We got in a second trailer. Then we got Paldean Wooper and Fido and Titan in a different trailer.
Yep.
Then we got Cyclizar on its own, and now we've got Grafaiai on its own. So 3, 5, 3, 1, 1.
But it's weird because, like, there doesn't seem to be a theme almost. Like, because this Pokemon got released in, like, a kind of standalone mini documentary, for lack of a better word. The previous Pokemon Cyclizar got released in a competitive trailer, which was timed to come out at the same time as Worlds. That made sense, but there's no real connective tissue between the two in terms of how those trailers are displayed. Like, this trailer is very different to all the ones that we've got because it feels very much like this is a real Pokemon that exists in the real world and I'm out exploring it, where the other ones were more like, oh, it's infomercial, like Titan. Like, that was pretty much just, oh, it's thrown out in a battle. It showed, like, brings up its name, and that was about it, wasn't it? Like,
well, yeah, that was in the trailer. We did obviously get the breakdown following that because that was part of the Pokemon Presents.
Yeah, it's just weird that, like, this kind of format that they've done for Grafaiai, like, why is that not a recurring thing from more Pokemon in this new game coming out? It feels really bizarre because I would say, oh, maybe this is the first of, a bunch of videos that we're going to get over the course of the next few weeks or months that kind of show these Pokemon living in the real world and how they interact and, teach you more about them. But it wouldn't surprise me if this is a one-off. It really feels like a lot of their marketing is just kind of, I don't want to say reactionary, but they don't link up quite well. Does that make sense?
No, I understand what you're saying. Like, you got the cutesy Pokemon in the first trailer, which made sense. You got the starters, and then you got the cutesy Pokemon, so the early route Pokemon, fair play. But Paldean Wooper, Fido, and Titan, there's no cohesion there. There's nothing that goes, that's the running theme. That's what they're showing us. It's just...
No, exactly. Like, if that second one had been like, okay, we're going to reveal the Pokemon that... the first 3 gym leaders have, because that way you start to learn a bit more about, I'm learning about the region, I'm learning about what recommended order they say we should take in the Pokemon, I'm learning more about the gyms, and I'm learning about one of the 3 ways to complete the game. But that wasn't the case. It was just like, here's a Pokemon, here's another new Pokemon, here's a Pokemon that the gym leader uses, and there was no through line between all those Pokemon.
I can understand why they did Cyclizar for the VG game, because it's got a new move, and that new move may end up being really, really important to the meta. I understand that. Plus, I think they've thrown that one out there to get, like, the theorists and the fan base going, ooh, is it a pre-evolved form? Is it this? Is it that? And just getting the hype going a little bit. I think they knew exactly what they were doing with that one.
Agreed.
But, like, again, this new trailer is closest to what they've done previously to the Zoroark one. Now, that made sense, because Zoroark... sorry, just ate my mic for a second and knocked everything over. Zoroark is a fan favorite Pokemon. it makes sense to do like this really in-depth trailer to get hype going around it.
Yeah.
Grafaiai, it's cool, but it just seems like an odd Pokemon to put this much effort into. Does that make sense?
No, it does, because like this doesn't look like, well, this video wasn't made using in-game graphics, which you could go, okay, if you do it in-game, it won't cost as much because you've already got the assets there, you've already got the technology there to move around the camera. So it wouldn't cost a huge amount. It mainly costs people's time more than anything. But this is like full CGI. They've had to get somebody in to create this video that won't be in the main game, won't be used again outside of this piece of marketing material. So I can't see... I'm glad for it, and I like it. And if this was the route they were going for all of them, it would make sense. But like I've already said, I don't think that's going to be the case. This is something that we're going to get one of, and I don't see us getting another kind of, next week it's, they reveal another new Pokemon in this kind of, the photographer's out trying to catch photos of it. And I might be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, because then I'd be able to go, okay, this was the first in a series, and it makes sense because there's a common theme that's linking all these videos together. But I don't think we're going to get that, and it wouldn't surprise me if, next week we get, here's another mini trailer revealing another one of the gym leaders and 2 new Pokemon. It's like, well, why wasn't that released after the previous one that featured a gym leader and a Pokemon? It just feels really, really strange. And like, I've got a note here. Like, I hate the leaks. I have avoided them, and thankfully I've had nothing spoilt for me. But I can't help but, like, GameFreak and Nintendo are aware that leaks are going on. Is that just free marketing for them at this point?
Questionable. Simply because, like, and I've heard this argument before that, well, leaks are, in fact, they might encourage leaks because leaks are marketing, but it doesn't allow them to control the speed of information coming out. It doesn't allow them to control the hype period and keep that like building over time. Because as far as like, I haven't avoided the leaks because I can't.
No.
As far as a lot of the leakers concerned, they've got the full Pokedex. They know what everything is.
Oh, really? They
haven't got names for stuff. They've just kind of gone, oh, well, this is this, and this is what this looks like, and is roughly this kind of Pokemon. So, yeah, it would surprise me if...
Leaks, for me, like, I do know of some companies, mainly in movies, where they do leak things, and the reason why is it's to gauge people's interest or thoughts on things. But the difference between movies and stuff is typically so I'm talking about the Marvel movies here, and there's loads of comics that kind of underpin it. So it's people that then theorize can't go too far astray because they have something to lean on. Well, this is how it happened in the comics. This is what we've seen so far, or these are the leaks, and therefore we can kind of figure it out based on these 2 elements. The problem with Pokemon is if you put something out there, as a leak to go, okay, let's just see what people think of this. The problem we've got is that there's no underpinning comics or manga or anything like that where people can go, okay, we can base this leak on proven information from past games or whatever it might be. And the problem you've got with that then is people run away with it, and suddenly it's... okay, this leak confirms that these Pokemon are going to be able to do this in the real world, and suddenly Nintendo are GameFreak are backed into a corner going, oh no, there's no way that our game can do that, and therefore people will go in with certain expectations and be disappointed. So while I think leaks are done in other media and with other franchises, I was just putting the question out there. I don't think it is done for Pokemon because they, like you say, there will be so many theories that come out based around the leaks, and as a result of that, it just means that people get their hopes dashed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think. But in terms of, I just find it really strange because Pokemon. So typically, we've got Pokemon Go, we've got Pokemon Masters, we've got all these other, games, we've got the plushies, we've got the anime and stuff like that. And it always felt strange to me that like the games kind of lead the way for all the other things, but they don't utilize them a bit more to introduce new Pokemon. So I'm talking about like Togepi in the original anime was released before Gen 2, right? And as a way to kind of drum up interest of who's this mysterious Pokemon. And yet, to my knowledge, we don't get that. The closest we probably got to that was Malton in Pokemon Go when that was released. And people were like, what
Which
is
wasn't
this?
even for a new generation. It was
No.
just a Pokemon Go Pokemon.
It was something in between. But I don't understand why, Pokemon Go or Pokemon Masters just releasing, a single Pokemon in the wild as a community day just to drum up that interest. Because there are people out there that probably play Pokemon Go for the nostalgia and catching the mons that they loved as a kid, but don't really care about or have no attachment to the newer Pokemon. But if they suddenly go, oh, this is that new Pokemon. Oh, okay, that looks really quirky and cool, actually. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go and find out a bit more about, the new generation. And then from there, they go down the rabbit hole and suddenly go, actually, I am going to buy this game, which is what happened with me with Sword and Shield.
Okay, so I've just had to look this up to confirm it.
Okay.
Game Freak didn't design Meltan. It was designed by Niantic.
Oh, interesting.
Now,
right.
Yeah. So my initial thought was like, well, because the people who, it's the Game Freak team who do the designs. It's Ken Sugimori and his team. He has a small team around him who design all the Pokemon.
Yes.
Now, why would they, theoretically, why would Game Freak use their staff to design Pokemon for a different game? Wouldn't really make sense. In theory, if they already had the designs prepped, so for instance, they had a load of leftover designs for Gen 2 from the Gen 1 games. That's where like Togepi comes from, that's where Ho-Oh came from, and things like that. They were already designed, so it made sense to introduce them in the anime early. You usually get later in the anime, you'll get a new Pokemon introduced. I think Blaziken came in at the end of Johto. Right at the very end as part of the league. That makes sense. The game's already designed. We've already finalized that. That can go out. I think Munchlax is maybe one of the more interesting ones because I'm trying to work out now whether it was first revealed in not Colosseum. Yes, Colosseum?
Yeah?
Yes, Colosseum. I think it was released in Colosseum and then was in the Hoenn anime, even though it didn't come out in Sinnoh. Let's have Munchlax.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure I've got that correct. Debuted in Destiny Deoxys. So Munchlax first came out in a film.
In a film. Okay.
Which, of course, we see a lot of mythical Pokemon in that show up in films.
Yeah.
Pokemon XD. There you
XD, that's the one. Oh, Gale of Darkness. Yes.
Yeah, so the follow-up. So it was the follow-up. So Munchlax and Bonsly both were revealed in Pokemon XD. So that's another one where, Game Freak designed a Pokemon but gave it to a different company to release it first.
It makes sense why, like, for me as a company, I wouldn't like to give too much control over to another company because don't get me wrong, for most people will just see, oh, it's a Pokemon game, and they won't think about the developer or anything like that. But obviously, they are two separate companies. Niantic and Game Freak are two very different companies with, I'd imagine, different staff, different feelings and thoughts around Pokemon, and you wouldn't want to give too much control to another company to basically design their own Pokemon. And I have a proper tinfoil theory around Meltan, which I know is probably not true, but in my head, I remember seeing it when it first came out, and it was just really weird that pretty much every Pokemon you were catching were turning into this like dodgy Ditto. And my mindset is that they needed a way to differentiate Ditto from real Pokemon in the overworld in terms of hitboxes and stuff like that. And therefore, the Meltan was originally just like, okay, that's how developers back end know that, okay, that's not actually the Pokemon, that's actually a Ditto. And Meltan was kind of just what was in, when you spin the box, and then it transitioned into, oh, it's actually a Ditto, and it accidentally got released, and then they had to backtrack and suddenly go, okay, let's introduce Meltan, because it looks so suspiciously like Ditto, and it doesn't look like any other Pokemon. It just looks really weird, like having something that looks so much like a Pokemon that already exists with a color swap and a nut just added to the top of it. It's really weird. But anyway,
if you don't mind, I'm gonna read this quote here. It's a GameSpot interview with Junichi Masuda.
Uh-huh.
So it says, please tell us more about the new Pokemon Meltan. Was it always planned to debut first in Pokemon Go, and was it designed in collaboration with Niantic or internally at Game Freak? Masuda says, we definitely planned to debut it in Pokemon Go from the very beginning. We had talked about it in early stages and even Go's development that we want to debut a Pokemon, and we worked with Niantic to kind of figure out that functionality. I've been working on the development of Go since the beginning as well, so I've always had it in mind. But the design, that was done internally at Game Freak. Oh. I gave some specific setting directions to one of our designers who was also a fan of the original games and played them as a kid. So he had a really good idea of what I was looking for based on this kind of very simple metal nut design. He definitely probably had the original Kanto Pokemon designs in his mind and tried to keep it as simple as possible.
Okay.
They were more kind of basic back then compared to some of the more modern designs. He worked on that, and then once it was finished, we gave all the assets and everything to Niantic. We planned the event and had them execute on that, and it worked out. Game Freak confirms Meltan was not designed by was not designed by Pokemon Go developers. Right, okay.
Right.
I misread the title to that. So yes, Game Freak did design Meltan.
Right. Okay, there we go. Fact checking on our actual pod. You don't get that anywhere else. Do you think the marketing makes that much difference to Pokemon? Is it just one of those things now that it's just a force of nature itself, and actually, you know what? There will be people out there, and I'm sure there will, that don't even look at the trailers, don't watch the trailers. They're out with the parents, and it's like, oh, there's a new Pokemon game out. Mum, Dad, I want that game.
I think it obviously helps awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more so in today's day and age, where there are people on the internet who will break everything down.
Yes.
It's very important. And, you were talking about the Marvel stuff before, and I think Game Freak are taking a very Marvel approach to this generation. I talked before about Cyclizar and the fact that I think that is a very Marvel approach of, let's show them one thing so they think this, and then we can spin it round on them later. I think they are very aware of the world we live in now. And maybe that's why they're not releasing so much information, because they're like, we don't need to. Other content creators need to get information out. So they will just keep going off of the same information if we leave it long enough, which we have.
Yeah. And the formula now is so ingrained. People know what Pokemon is. They know how the main games function. They know that I can guarantee you that there will be people out there that have never played Pokemon but can tell you the difference between a main generation game and a spin-off game simply by the fact that, well, that one's got two versions, and the titles of those versions are some way linked, whether it's color, whether or not it's a letter or something like that. Whereas compare that to other video games where when they, especially a game that is the first of its series, they need to do a lot of marketing and a lot of pushing because there's so much that you have to get people to understand, like, okay, what type of game is it? What type of genre is it? What platforms is it going to be on? What's the story like? If it has something, is it something that is, it has a battle mechanic? Is it shooter? Is it, a RPG or whatever it might be? And, how do those mechanics differentiate it from other games in the same genre? Whereas Pokemon doesn't really have that limitation. It's a strength that it's got where, I could not watch any of these trailers and just go into, okay, I'm just going to buy Gen 9. And you know what? I could write on a piece of paper and predict 80-90% of what happens, because the roadmap, I guess, of what a Pokemon game is already there, and people know it, and they know what it's not like other games where they have to be other game developers where they have to be very clear about what the game you are buying is, because they don't want people to be disappointed that, I went into this game expecting this, and instead I got something completely different, which I'm not interested in. I'm going to sell it on. Whereas Pokemon, you just go, okay, I'm buying Pokemon. You know whether or not you're going to like it. You know what is going to be involved in that game. Typically, okay, you're gonna travel a continent. You're gonna catch Pokemon. You're gonna battle people, and eventually you're gonna be the best trainer in that region. Like, people know what they're getting themselves into. So, go on.
Yeah, no. On that note, I think realistically, we've had all the information we need. For like anybody who knows Pokemon, which is the vast majority of people, to be like yes or no on this game. You've got the starters, you've got the gimmick, you know it's open world, and you've seen the box art legendaries, so you can decide which one you want.
Yeah. What more do
you need?
Yeah.
Like, to make your choice. Now, I was having a discussion with someone it was either in my comment section or on Twitter, who is like, oh, well, I should know more information on a game that if they want me to spend $60 on it, I should know about what I'm buying. And I'm like, you're not asking for a trailer, you're asking for a review.
Yeah.
Those are two different things.
Yes.
Like, I will say up front, you should never pre-order a game.
Oh, no.
Ever.
No.
Really?
No.
I'm going to, because I make money off this. But don't do it.
No.
I would always highly recommend getting reviews of games before you buy them.
Agreed.
Watch reviews of films before you watch them. I mean, not always, because, sometimes the blind experience is fun. And if you can get a blind experience and that's something you're up for, do that. But you've already decided then that you're going to buy it anyway if you want that blind experience. Like, if you want lots and lots of information, you wait until the game comes out. The trailers are not going to give you all of that.
No.
And I don't think they should. And I think realistically, Pokemon is a game about discovery. It's about having experiences. And the more you know, the less impact that will have on you.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. The trailers are always nice, but like, it's one of the issues, I think, and you see this a lot in films nowadays, where the trailers are basically, here's the plot of the film in a quick 60 to 2 minute, trailer. And the amount of films where I've seen the trailer and I've just gone,
and you've seen the film because you've
seen
the trailer.
Yeah, there's no point me watching. What was a recent one? Moonfall. So I have no interest in seeing this. So do you know about this film?
No, watch Moonfall. It's one of the best films I've watched in years.
Okay, so
it's so good.
So
and by good, I mean it's awful.
It's awful, but it's good. So I watched the first trailer and I saw that and I thought, you know what? Actually, that looks pretty good. I like the concept. The moon is falling to Earth. It's going to wipe out everything. What does humanity do? Makes sense. I was like, okay, I'm on board with this. And then I went to see a Marvel film. And there was trailers before the film, and Moonfall came out. I thought, I've already seen this trailer, but that's fine. Let's watch it again. And it spoilt the big reveal. You know what I'm on about if you've seen it. It spoiled the big reveal of, this isn't the film you were actually getting in for. And I had that taken away, because I was going to watch that film. Maybe not at the cinema, I was going to watch it. And I went from, I can't wait to watch that, to, there is literally no point me watching that film. It's a spoiled the big twist. But for me,
trust me. I know how you feel.
Yeah,
but that was a set of advertising directors who were like, "This film is garbage. It is such hot garbage that if people don't know it's hot garbage going in,
they're not going to
enjoy it."
I get that.
So let's let them know what they're getting in for. Let's do our job.
And
make a good, like, a clear advertisement of what people are getting.
I get that.
Yes, it's a twist, but it's not like a late a late show twist.
No.
It does come up really early.
Oh, does it? Right, okay.
The moon is a mega structure.
Yeah,
oh my
pretty
god,
much.
it's
It's just like, what?
amazing.
I'll have to,
it's
right,
what an
okay.
experience.
Okay, I'll have to go back and watch that. But Pokemon is a bit like Star Wars in terms of trailers, because when the Force Awakens was coming out, and Star Wars hadn't been a thing in movies for a long time, about 10, 20 odd years, and the first trailer didn't reveal anything. It was just a series of, short clips from the film of, everything that you expect. Like, you expect a lightsaber to be lit up. You expect stormtroopers. You expect the Millennium Falcon and TIE fighters flying around. There was no reveal in terms of story, plot, who was in it. And like that, for me, was more exciting because I was like, okay, I know that I'm going to get an experience from this, and therefore I'm going to watch. I don't need to know what the plot is about because I'm going to go and see it in the cinema, and I'll learn the plot as it goes along. And Pokemon kind of feels like the same to me, where the trailers should sell that experience more than like, okay, this is your character. Okay, these are the 3 ways you can play in this way, that way, or that way. We're going to lay it all out. Oh, these are the 8 gym leaders. These are some of the Pokemon they use. And here's the 4 members of the Elite Four if you decide to go down that route. Oh, yeah, by the way, here's the bad guys.
Yeah.
And you just go, well, I was going to buy it anyway, and now you've just kind of taken away some of the adventure and discovery that I'm going to have playing this game.
Yeah, I agree. And you're talking about The Force Awakens. Let's not forget that when The Force Awakens came out, the trailers, even the posters, all suggested that Finn was going to be the main character.
Yeah.
And Finn was going to be the Jedi. And it wasn't. It was a bait and switch for Rey.
Rey was hardly in a lot of the... like the early marketing material, you're absolutely right. Like Rey, you kind of saw bits and pieces of Rey, but I think it was Finn that like ignited the lightsaber in the trailer. Like, oh, okay, here we go.
And he's even got it on the poster as well.
Yeah, he has. Yes, and Rey's just got her quarterstaff or whatever it is. So yeah, Pokemon for me, like, just trailers moving forwards, like, sell people on the experience. And I guess for me, some of the new gimmicks, I think, is what, like, if Pokemon are more alive, like, that for me is what they need to be selling. Like, the gimmicks that people have been asking for.
Again, maybe I would like to know what the other paths are going to be. I think if information-wise,
yes,
that's something I'd like to see.
Because then when you go into the game, you can go, okay, I know that these are the 3 ways, but I don't know the journey that I'm going to go on with these methods. I don't know the people I'm going to meet. I don't know how difficult they're going to be. I don't know how that impacts the story. What you don't want is them to go, these are the 3 ways that you can do it. Oh, if you take the cycling route, these will be the bad guys, and you will have to beat them in a series of... like, you don't want any of that. You just want, okay, give me the bare bones so I can make the decisions that I want. It's a bit like the starters. Like, the 3 paths are like the starters. You know what the first evolution is. You don't know what the next 2 evolutions are. You don't know the abilities. You don't know the moveset. You don't know what their final forms are going to be. But you have enough information to go, I'm going to go that way. And they need to do that with the 3 routes. Just give us the bare bones kind of, headline information about that route, those routes, and then you can just decide in-game, that's the one I'm going to go for. And then you discover it as you go along.
Now, there are some things I'd like clarification on that we have had the bare roots of, like the multiplayer.
Yes.
I still don't know exactly how this multiplayer is going to work. That's something I really want clarified.
They need a multiplayer trailer. I think that's something that needs really... because that... like, I'm going to get this game regardless, but, like, the multiplayer is not something that I want to discover in-game, because I want to be able to know in advance and go, you know what? Like, I sometimes stream with British on Twitch. I want to be able to go, British, can we book, like, a couple of days where we play this together? And the last thing I want to do is, okay, yeah, let's get on stream, let's play it. Oh, I can't connect with you until the 3rd gym. Okay, right. Oh, you mean we have to stick together to do anything? Like, I don't want that. I want to be able to go, okay, I know how the multiplayer works, what the limitations are, what the opportunities are, and then from that, we can plan around it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is that simple, because I'm much the same way, The other Kingdom Boys and myself have said, like, oh, it'd be really cool to play this 4-player. We'll all stream it as soon as the game comes out. It'll be great.
Yeah.
But if we all have to suddenly stick together, it's not going to be as interesting.
Yeah, it's The pessimistic in me goes, they're not releasing that information because they know it doesn't do everything that people want. I've got this horrible feeling what you're getting is let's go, coupled with that's how you trade and battle. You get 4 people, you can all stick together, and then if you talk to one another, you can initiate battles or trading. Like, that is the pessimistic in me. The optimist in me is going, they're still working this out because the crunch development time is a thing. They'll be working on this for as long as they can to tweak it, to change it, to implement whatever they might be implementing. So the optimistic in me is thinking, okay, they are saving this because we are still a way out to the release, and you don't want to blow your big reveal too early on, do you? Because then it kind of loses momentum. You can't, like, if they're going to release all the big information, you do it in the weeks leading up to it, because at that point, people are going, okay, yeah, there are people that pre-order, and they'll be going, I'm going to pre-order this. I'm going to get this on digital download so I can play it on release. People going, okay, right, I need to plan out to make sure I've got enough cash saved up so I can go out and buy it on release date and figure out where I'm going to go to buy it. So, and that was an issue with me, Legends Arceus. I had no intention of buying Legends Arceus. Like, literally, it was the day of, or a couple of days after release, where my daughter was really into it, and I was looked up a little bit online. I was like, actually, you know what? Because I kind of went to Legends Arceus quite fresh, and I was looking at it going, actually, this looks quite fun. And then I was, going to about 5 different shops to try and buy it and get it. It was an absolute nightmare to get. But, like, release all that information a few weeks beforehand so that people like me will go, okay, right, this looks really good. Oh, I've only got a week and a half left. Okay, have I got enough cash in the bank account? Yeah, okay. Right, on that day, I'm going to go up to, local game or, supermarket, whatever it might be, and pick it up. Maybe that's what we're getting.
Wouldn't it be nice to just a couple of weeks before be able to gather all the money together for it?
It would be
God,
nice,
showing your privilege a bit there.
No, if it makes you feel any better, Legends Arceus, my daughter just was like, I'll go halves on it with you, because she'd not long had a birthday and Christmas. So I was like, yeah, go on. And it made sense because, like, we've both played it about.
Well, it's her game now, right?
It is. Well, yeah. She jumps between that and some other ones, whereas I haven't played it in a while, but I do want to go back to it. But, like, I know that when Gen 9 comes out, because of when it comes out, she's not going to be able to pay half because, like, she's a 9-year-old kid. She doesn't earn an income. But I'll be going, I'm going to buy it anyway, aren't I? So
stick her up a chimney and sort it out.
There we go. That's what, wouldn't that be a journey for her? Oh, speaking of which.
Speaking of.
It's that time again where we continue watching Pokemon Journeys and discuss the episodes. So the first one is the one that you wanted to discuss last week when I was a naughty boy and I only watched 2, but I've watched it this time. I'm just going to jump straight into it. Ash versus Bay, or B as it's pronounced.
B.
Yeah. So I went into this one, like I've said in previous episodes, I don't know if Ash is going to win. There's part of me going, oh yeah, well, who is going to stop Ash's momentum? Is anyone going to stop him? But if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be somebody that we've not met before, surely. So when we were at the start, going back a little bit, we're at Saffron City's fighting dojo, and I'm thinking, well, who's he going to fight here? I was like, okay, I'm sure there's going to be a battle, but I'm not sure who. So then, obviously, they introduced B. I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then they show their current rankings, 890 to 751. So I was like, okay, right. My nerves start setting in at this point, because I am thinking this could actually be the time that Ash loses. And I think the part for me that cemented it when Ash seemed really confident, a lot more than normal in this. And I thought, he's going to be knocked down a peg. And he is. The fight is brutal. I don't
think he gets a hit in.
I don't think he does. The whole Lucha just absolutely wrecks Farfetch'd. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because normally when you have these Pokemon battles, and I think I've mentioned this before, where, if Ash is going to win, there needs to be the point in the battle where it looks like he's going to lose first. Because if he just goes in and he hammers home the win, it's a little bit disappointing, both in terms of character development and growth, but also from us as a watcher. Because every time then it's like, oh, he's just going to win, he's going to win. Whereas this one, it doesn't, like, sometimes I've seen it in films and stuff where it looks like the good guy's going to win, but then they lose because then it's not as crushing of a blow because they were able for a time to go toe-to-toe. But there isn't really that in this battle. Like, Ash is on
he gets ruined.
He gets absolutely ruined. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he picked the best Pokemon for this fight, but it's different than the games in terms of, you can win with a Pokemon that has a type weakness. Because I'm there thinking, right, okay, surely you pick Gengar and you pick Dragonite or Pikachu, maybe. But he goes for Farfetch, so it isn't even a Surfetch. Now, I think I get why they're doing that, because eventually Farfetch is going to be Surfetch, and maybe that's setting up for Surfetch versus Surfetch in some kind of future rematch. Maybe, surely there's going to be a rematch. And then he brings Riolu, which isn't a Lucario yet. And, like, I haven't got a load of notes on the Hawlucha fight, simply because it uses Hone Claws, and then it just gets in close and just wrecks shop. Whereas the Riolu one goes on for a lot longer, and like,
it's cruel.
It is absolutely cruel. And what I love about the anime is it allows them to show Pokemon do things that they can't in the game. So, for example, Grappaloct with all its arms makes sense why it's a fighting type, because it would give it a real advantage. And we get to see this in this episode where, it is able to basically grapple. Like, the name makes sense in this because it just brings Riolu close despite using Double Team. And then once it's tied in and it's got two arms around Riolu, it's still got multiple arms to which to attack, which is exactly what it does.
Yeah. And it is that close range liquidation. Like, you feel that. You see the fear on Riolu's face of, oh god.
Yes. It's almost like that meme where it's like, he's already dead. Just stop. And like, I was watching this going, is this still a kid's show? Like, it was getting absolutely pummeled.
And I will say, like, I think the choice of the Pokemon wasn't correct, but I will say it was a fighting dojo, and Ash used his fighting type Pokemon.
That makes sense.
Which maybe is what he took them there to train up.
Good point. Yes, didn't think about that. That does make sense.
So I understand the choice. I don't agree with the choice, but yeah, the first big loss, and it hits him hard.
It really does. So just, like, there's a knock-on effect, but just before the knock-on effect of this loss is that Ash is upset, and it's not surprising. But what I love is the fact that Ash, still being Ash, despite losing, he praises his mons, which I love. I love the fact that, he's there for his mons, and while the loss hurts, his heart's still in the right place of, okay, you know what? I need to praise my mons. They did a great job. Did their best, and you know what? It's a way, it's a way that he can develop now, both in terms of, maybe not being so cocky because he's been on such a win streak, but also, development of his Pokemon as well, and thinking, okay, he can't go against Leon with, non-fully evolved Mons. He's got two Mons in Farfetch'd and Riolu that need to evolve. I know he will never evolve Pikachu, but like, he needs to develop these mons to come up with some kind of strategy so he can go toe to toe with Leon. And there's a lot between him and Leon in terms of, we've seen one of the 10 gym leaders from the Sword and Shield era. Surely we're going to see more. And I'm glad they went straight for B rather than, he takes on Nessa and Kabu, the ones that are earlier, and he just wrecks them, because I always feel sorry for the first couple of gym leaders in Pokemon games, because they always come across as weak when actually, well, they're not. You're just on the start of your journey. So, my headcanon is they just take it easy on you because, you've only got one badge or 0 badges or whatever it might be. But
so I will say with B as well, one of the things that fascinated me about this episode was the fact that, when somebody usually beats Ash, they're like, you fought well. Good on you.
She's
she
ruthless.
just leaves. She's like, I beat you.
Yeah.
Bye.
I'm off. See ya. You're pathetic. Like, all right. But
Thank you for letting me use your dojo, Karate Master.
yes,
I'm out.
I see it. But like that kind of fits with her personality. She looks like the no-nonsense kind of person who is, no mercy. Like, Cobra Kai style, just go in there for the kill and I'm out. See ya. I got what I came here for. So, yeah, I just remember watching this episode and thinking, oh, I felt not down. I didn't feel down, but I was like, oh, okay, right. This doesn't feel like, up until now, it's felt very much like a typical kids show. Whereas now, after this loss, it feels a lot more like an anime where, okay, he's got to, he's been knocked down a peg. Where's he go, and how does he improve?
And part of me kind of wants to skip the next episode to go on to the third one of this week because it kind of follows the story on.
Yes,
and if you're up for it, can we circle back to the next episode?
that does make sense because like when we were talking about knocking down a peg and losing momentum, I was thinking, okay, let's talk about the next episode. But like you say, it's not actually the next episode. It's episode 36, Making Battles in the Sand. And do you want to just talk about why you wanted to move on to this episode rather than the previous one?
Because this episode is... We see initially Ash taking on a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
But all of them seem to be bringing up... Now, I was going to say, I was watching this and I was like, this isn't PTSD. Don't say it's PTSD on the podcast because it's not the same thing. It's clearly trauma. He's clearly having trauma flashbacks.
He's overthinking as well.
But he fights an Octillery.
Yeah.
He fights a Tentacruel.
Yeah.
And there's another one, isn't there?
I think so, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's another octopus Pokemon. But anyway, he's fighting all of these Pokemon with Riolu. He's remembering back to Graplocked. And he's convinced in his head that the reason they failed against Graplocked was because they got in close. And it's too dangerous to fight close. Fighting close is only going to get his Pokemon injured. It's only going to result in a loss. So he's effectively telling Riolu to constantly back off, constantly use Vacuum Wave. And that's not how Riolu fights.
No.
That's not how they've been training to fight. That's not how they're comfortable in fighting with each other. And they're quite clearly out of sync.
Yeah.
Because Ash is... up till this point, we've always said, Ash is very in tune with his Pokemon's emotions. They can communicate together and they're very much on the same level. Ash is so much in his own head at this point in time that he just he's lost that sync. He's lost that connection with his Pokemon, and it's showing. Him and Riolu aren't communicating correctly. Riolu's getting battered by all these Pokemon who realistically he probably shouldn't be. To the point where Ash drops out of the Great Class.
He does. So he ends up at rank 1,000
and something, yeah.
Sorry, just having some water.
No.
So yeah, he loses three in a row, and Ash really starts to doubt his journey to beating Leon. But
yeah, he thinks he was foolish for ever thinking that was even a possibility.
Yeah, but at the time, I was thinking, when I was watching this back, I was thinking, oh, okay, right, I understand why he loses the next lot, because he needs to learn and develop. But actually, from a story point of view, it makes sense, because what you couldn't do is have him lose to a really good trainer and then go back to a winning spree, because it kind of devalued the battle against B and just be like, well, the loss was just a fluke. And if he fights them again, he levels up his mons a little bit, he'll win. So I think we needed to see him really doubt himself, lose to some, random NPCs, basically, just because then it actually means that when he does go into further battles, suddenly, even if it's not a gym leader from Gen 8, it could be a random NPC that has really good mons. You could go, you could actually lose here as well, rather than you don't want to get into the mindset or the trap. And I'm sure the developers, the writers were thinking of this at the time, where, okay, he always wins, except for when he comes across a gym leader from the 8th gen, and there's a chance he could lose. Whereas this kind of cements, actually, you know what? He can lose to anybody, but it's about how he gets back on that winning streak. And eventually we get to that, but before we do, we obviously have a bit of a story going on.
Yeah, a little bit of a side quest. In Hoenn, there is a large sandstorm kicking up that is giving off some kind of resonance that is making people walk into it.
That was really weird, that was, thinking back.
It's creepy. It's a creepy storyline.
I don't quite... Was that ever addressed, why it's, like, attracting people in? Did I miss that?
No, I don't think it is. Like, we find out that it's obviously... not Vibrava, the other one. Flygon. It's Flygon's wings that is creating this resonance. And, like, it's kicking up a sandstorm so that the Trapinch and Vibrava can have somewhere to live.
You say...
But no, it's never said why it's attracting people in. It's also never said why Ash and Go aren't affected.
No, it's not, actually. So when you said, like, with Flygon and with Trapinch, it wants to eat them, right? There's literally a scene where there's a Trapinch just like gnawing at the bottom of a sandpit like a Sarlacc, just like wanting to eat the people. Like, just read between the lines there. But it's never explained why they aren't affected, and they just happen to have Go goggles on them, which is great callback. Love that. And there's a neat little part where the Sobble becomes invisible, as it does, and the team freaks out because the goggles are just, like, floating in midair. So I absolutely love that. And the team work together to try and, figure this out and, stop them. And the Go tries some interesting techniques with his Pokeball here to try and catch the Mons, which includes the Rabbit kicking the balls to kind of make it curl. Which is quite unique how that works. I like that. I like that it isn't just Go. Because we've seen Go just throwing Pokeballs left, right, and center. And slowly, he's developing these new ways to try and trick Pokemon to catch them. And I quite like that.
I like the fact that his Pokemon are involved. I like the fact that Rabu is involved in the catching. If it's not in battling, it's you can redirect the balls that I miss.
I like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Rather than my thoughts around that is he's developed this because of the Farfetch that just kept hitting the Pokeball back. It's not explicitly stated, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking surely that's why, because he's failed to catch a few Mons now, and because he's the kind of trainer that typically prefers to catch rather than battle, he's had to think of creative ways to catch these Mons. So it'd be interesting to see what else he comes up with later on in the series. But
of course, in this episode, he actually does battle. He can't catch the Flygon.
No,
he can't catch the Flygon outright, so he has to battle.
Yes.
And he asks Ash for help initially, and Ash uses Pikachu against the Flygon.
So I've got a note there. Pikachu uses Thunderbolt, which is ineffective as part ground type. And I've just put, so now the anime starts following the game rules. Just when it's convenient.
Do you know what? There was an element I watched this and I was like, oh, you've slipped back into like
rookie mistakes.
Gen 5.
Yeah.
You've fallen back into that. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And again, I get it. He's psyched himself out. He's not thinking clearly. Yeah. He's not got his head on straight. And obviously Go corrects him. He's like, that's not going to work. And he uses Riolu, and Riolu once again, vacuum wave. Just vacuum wave. Stay back and vacuum wave.
Yeah.
And this is where Go gets some of the best character development I've seen, where he takes on this Flygon with Rabu, and Flygon's going around using Dragon Rush. They're dodging, they're weaving. It's all looking great. Awesome animation. Loved every minute of this.
Yeah.
And then Flygon uses Draco Meteor.
Yes, I love this part.
And Go's like, okay, dodge. Right, I have an idea. Jump up on the Draco Meteors.
Yeah.
Find one that works for you and use Ember with it. And kicks a flaming meteor at Flygon. And it's so beautiful.
Yes.
It's such a brilliant idea. The fact that they pulled it off is insane. What a cool moment. And every part of me was going like, that's it. Go has finally learned how to battle and has learned to battle well. And he says it, and he says it outright. You know, Ash goes to him, wow, that was really amazing. You did such a wonderful thing. And he's like, I learned it from you.
Yeah.
The idea of thinking outside the box, coming up with weird strategies, I got it all from you.
Yeah.
When you've got your head on straight, when you're thinking clearly, you are incredible. And you can do amazing things.
Yeah.
Don't lose that. I was actually in
so
tears.
Nice. Oh, were you?
I was a little bit.
It's absolutely, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, one of my notes here is, it's a lesson for Ash from Go to be himself, and Ash says it's time to start from square one to challenge Leon, and just like go back to how he battles, which is, the reason why he's won so much is because, unlike other trainers, he does think outside the box. He uses whatever he's got to his, in the surrounding area to his advantage, and he utilizes attacks in, different ways. And we did see that in the battle with B, where, the first time that Grappaloctus got Riolu, he uses an attack to kind of break the ground and get a bit of distance. Obviously, it doesn't work the second time around. But hopefully now, after Ash's, losing streak, and he's learned a little bit in terms of, not to overanalyze himself and doubt himself, and to, the way he battles, it works. Not all the time, but it works. And therefore, moving forward, that's what he needs to be. He just needs to be himself, and, the wins will probably start coming again soon.
Yeah. Very soon, I can imagine.
Yes, I can imagine. So we don't go forward an episode to see if that's the case. We go back an episode to episode 35. Gotta catch a what?
Gotta catch a what?
Oh, I remember this episode. It's the Pikachu episode.
It's the Pikachu episode.
Yes, there's an outbreak of Pikachu.
Which, again, outbreaks. Good fun.
Yeah.
Good to see outbreaks coming in.
Definitely. Love it. And Go wants his own Pikachu, which I can understand why. He tries to be sneaky, and then does he quietly say go when tossing the Pokeball? I can't remember if he shouts.
How do you mean? Right. So he chucks a bunch of Pokeballs at random Pikachus, and they're either dodging it or knocking it away. And then this female Pikachu comes up and is like feeding them berries because she's just a carer.
Yes.
That's her whole thing. And Ash turns around to him and is like, oh, you could probably catch it while it's distracted. And he does. He underarms it. He's like, go.
That's it. I remember that now. And like, he catches it. And just look how happy the wild Pikachu is that it's caught its partner. Like, what? Like, you'd be like, hold on, that's my wife, what you doing? You can't kidnap her.
Wait, who? Who are you thinking?
There's two Pikachus just chilling.
One of them is Ash's.
Is it?
Yeah, one of them's Ash's.
Oh, I missed that. Right, okay.
Right,
that's
yes,
not bad then.
There is a wild female Pikachu that comes up to Ash's Pikachu and gives it a berry.
Okay. I thought that was a wild male one, which was I was like, hold on, you're breaking up this couple, but okay, that's fine then, Go, it's fine. We'll just pretend it was an orphan Pikachu that had no family and it doesn't want to live with the rest of its kind. Anyway.
It had a bunch of friends.
It had lots
friends. And lots of friends.
Who
have all shown up to dig up Thunderstones.
Yeah, using Iron Tail. I love that little bit of lore.
Yep.
I like. Go on.
I like the reason that's why they would be able to learn Iron Tail.
It does, yeah, to kind of dig him out so they can evolve. And what? So I saw a clip about has Pikachu finally evolved? This was like ages ago, back before we even thought about doing this podcast. So I kind of knew where that was going, but I must admit it still filled me with a little bit of anxiety having this Pikachu chase it around with the Thunderstone.
Oh.
And just like, no, Ash's Pikachu doesn't want to evolve. Like, just leave it alone. And they run behind the rock, and of course you see there's telltale signs that an evolution is happening. And of course it's a fake out. I'm glad it's a fake out. But at the same time, the anxiety was just like, ugh.
I was watching it as well, and it's a male Raichu that jumps out. Obviously, it's the female Pikachu chasing Ash's Pikachu, who we all know is a
yeah.
male. And it's a male Raichu that jumps up. And I'm like,
Wait,
excuse
what?
me?
Wait, was a female running around first? Was it a female chasing?
So it's Go's female Pikachu that's chasing
yes.
Ash's one around.
But it comes out as a male? Oh,
The Raichu jumps up. It's a male. And then we find, like, they look up on the mountainside and they're still chasing each other.
Yes, that's it. Right.
It just happened to be another random
Pikachu round the side.
Evolved.
Right, so that's the Pikachu element of this story. Wow. And then, of course, Team Rocket shows up, as they always do, because what more could they want than one Pikachu?
Lots of Pikachu.
Lots of Pikachus, exactly. So Team Rocket are a bit ruthless in this, aren't they? Just like sucking up Pokemon left and right, no messing around.
Is this their first, like, weird gadget gizmo of this series?
I think it is, you know.
Because they used to do this all the time. They'd have some crazy gadget.
Yes, to catch Pokemon.
They've not really done anything like this in this series.
The only gadget I think we've seen so far is the pachinko machine to get Pokemon, and that's about because that is new to this generation. It wasn't in the previous one, was it?
No, that's brand new.
So they are the only things that they've had. I can't think if they've had anything else. If they have, nothing stands out. And I love this machine because it just gives loads of Pokemon their chance to shine, like Minccino and Boneri, like it's just giving them the chance to come out and battle. And
it's great because they turn around and be like, "Oh, really? We got dud prizes this time," and then they just slap them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, wait, they're hard hitters. We love them.
And Tickle is so effective as well.
Very effective.
It's just absolutely brilliant. I've actually got a screenshot of one of the battles where the Minccino is like hugging Raboot, and it's just got a huge grin on its face, and Raboot's like tears coming out of its eyes, and its mouth's like, "Oh, what is happening here? This isn't normal. This isn't a battle." And yeah, I just love it. And what I do love is the fact that they catch all these Pikachus, but the dilemma is they don't know which one Ash's Pikachu is, and they're cycling through all these different Pikachus, trying to figure out which one's the Ash's Pikachu. And you've got one that's chubby, you've got one that's a little bit vacant. Absolutely love it.
It's good fun. We do like Team Rocket and the fact that they are allowed to be just the comic relief.
Yes.
Because I remember in one of the previous series, like, I think it might have been Gen 5, can't remember off the top of my head, but they had like black uniforms and they were supposed to be more of a threat than they'd ever been before.
Yeah.
And they've kind of doubled back on that now. And they're just like, nah, they are straight up comic relief and always will be.
Exactly. Comic relief.
Even though they are maybe more competent in this series than they've ever been before.
They definitely come across as competent, and it almost feels like some of their losses are more luck rather than stupidity or overconfidence. It does feel like there's been a few times where, if they'd have just done this ever so slightly different, they would have gotten away with it, which I enjoy because it does make them feel a bit more of a threat, despite the fact that they have not been threatening for 20 odd years now.
Yeah.
The only last like comments I've got on this is all the Pikachu walking in a line was creepy as anything.
It was, but again, I remember. Have you seen the Pikachu parades before?
I have. I've seen clips of them. Yeah. Yes.
That was what it kind of reminded me of, and that's what I thought they were like referencing. The Pika, Pika, Pika. And you're right. It was freaky, but I think it was supposed to be as well.
Yes,
and then they all jump on top of each other's heads
it was
like
great.
A giant totem. And I'm like, that's got to be tough on the neck of
that
the Pikachu at the bottom.
Can't be nice, can it? But overall, I think 3 great episodes, to be honest with you. I loved all of them. And I kind of feel like we've had, obviously the first episode we discussed today was Ash versus B. Then we've had one episode which has been not filler, but it's not related to that first episode. Then we've had another episode which is related about Ash, a bit of development for Ash. It almost makes me feel that maybe the next episode we're going to get a fighting episode, which I always love.
See, I'm weirdly kind of glad that we missed the B episode last week because it tied so nicely in this week. We got the start and the resolution to a full arc there, which I really liked.
And I didn't look ahead at the episodes, but I looked at how many episodes we've got left on Netflix.
We've got 3 episodes per week kind of thing.
So
it works out really nicely.
Yeah, it's almost like I planned it. I didn't, but almost like I did. Connor, are you up for playing a game?
Yeah, it's my turn again.
What do you mean it's your turn? Me to ask you?
Yeah, that's
okay. That's all right then. Oh, okay. I thought you were bringing out just 3 random Pokedex entries for me. It's like, no, I'm going to do this time. But in front of me, I have 3 Pokemon with 3 Pokedex entries each. But Connor, can you spot the fake entry?
Hopefully.
So the first Pokemon is Delibird. Now, there is a running theme between these 3 Pokemon.
Is it Christmas?
No.
Oh.
So, Pokedex entry number 1. It nests at the edge of sharp cliffs. It spends all day carrying food to its awaiting chicks. Second Pokedex entry. Delibird carries its food bundled up in its tail. There once was a famous explorer who managed to reach the peak of Mount Everest thanks to one of these Pokemon sharing its food. And the third and final entry. Its hollow tail can store more than 100 berries. The Delibird that can hold the most is chosen as the leader of its flock.
So that first one seemed very odd. Like it just seemed off.
Yeah.
For some reason. But I also am not sold on the third one. I'm going to go with the first one. And knowing that you're going to tell me it's the third one.
Exactly, it's the third one.
It's the third one.
It's the third one. I was hoping to throw in the Mount Everest thing to trick you up, but as we've kind of realised, there are, especially in the earlier gens, there are real-world references to, well, the real world.
I think I've read that one as well.
I'm pretty sure...
I was fairly comfortable with that one.
And I'm pretty sure the Mount Everest Pokedex entry, it's not even in Gen 1 or Gen 2. I think it's like Gen 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought they'd moved away from real world examples by then, but apparently not. So the next Pokemon is Smeargle. The first Pokedex entry. Once it becomes an adult, it has a tendency to let its comrades plant footprints on its back. Second Pokedex entry. No 2 Smeargle paintings are identical. There are fanatics who will pay big money for owning an original piece of work from this Pokemon. And the third and final entry. Smeargle marks the boundary of its territory using a body fluid that leaks out from the tip of its tail. Over 5,000 different marks left by this Pokemon have been found.
That sounds gross.
Yeah, it does a little bit, doesn't it, when you think
Bodily
about
fluid.
What is the fluid?
I never thought it was fluid.
It is, yeah.
Does it have footprints on its back?
I don't know.
I was very confused about it having footprints on its back. You don't really see the back of Smeargle
No, you
very
don't.
much.
No.
You don't, unless you use it, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like an odd thing for you to write, and this is it. This is one of those where I'm more analyzing you than I am.
Yeah.
I don't like it being bodily fluid. Please let it be number 3.
No, it's number 2. So yes, it's
the footprint one.
No, number 2 was about no 2 Smeargle paintings are identical. There are fanatics who will pay big money for owning an original piece of work.
Oh, okay. That was one of the ones I was more comfortable with. Okay, fair enough.
Because the other 2 sound so fake, like footprints on its back, yeah, real Pokedex entry, and body fluid, which I don't really want to think about.
Oh, it does have a little like paw print thing
does
on its
it?
back.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So
there you go then.
The third and final one is Furret. Do you know the linking theme here?
Furret, Delibird, Smeargle. They're all Gen 2 Pokemon. Sax? No, no idea.
Okay, it's about the tails. So,
okay.
Pokedex entry number 1. The age of a Furret can be calculated by the length of its tail. The more rings one has, the older it is. Second Pokedex entry. There is no telling where the tail begins. Despite its short legs, it is quick at hunting Rattata. And the third and final entry. The mother puts its offspring to sleep by curling up around them. It corners foes with speed.
Aww.
I know. So cute.
I really like that third one, but I don't think it's right.
Okay. So you think that's the fake one?
Sure.
Incorrect, I'm afraid. It was the first one, so the age of a furret can be calculated by the length of its tail. The more rings one has, the older it is. I was quite proud of myself for that one. I thought, oh, that's quite creative, actually. I quite
That's
like that
really
one.
good. I did like that.
Yeah?
I listened to that when I was like, that sounds like something I might come up with, but at the same time, I want it to be true.
Yeah. I really enjoyed pulling these ones together. Like, the fact that I had 3 Pokemon that I could be so creative with, I really enjoyed it. I think you got 0. Does that mean that we go back to you testing me next week?
Is that the way we do it?
Yeah, let's
I'm
do
happy
that.
for that to be the way we do it.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. Brilliant. So let's move on to comments and questions. I'm not calling it letters and comments anymore because we don't get like physical letters. So this week we have a question from Taylor, who I believe submitted a question last time, but I quite like this one. What's the reasoning behind your choice of channel mascots? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I mean, because he is the goodest of boys.
He's the best of boys, isn't he?
Arcanine is the goodest of boys. Is there much more to it than that, other than the fact it is my favorite Pokemon? Not really.
No?
I really wish there was, but it just... It was always a case of, if there was a Pokemon in real life, that would be the one I'd want. And that's my absolute favorite Pokemon of all time. And I love it dearly. So yeah, as mascots go, it had to be.
Yeah, makes sense. Mine's got a bit more of a story. When I first started this channel, I didn't have a mascot. And then I had a Mudkip as a mascot because I love the Mudkip line. And then the Chikorita line, nicknamed Sixies in my community, came about because I was doing a Fire Red Nuzlocke series, and I went into Mount Moon. I was like, right, I've got 5 Pokemon, time to catch the 6th. Oh, it was a Bayleaf. Oh, I'll just call it Sixies. And then it just always seems to pop up in series. And the highlight for that line was I did a Heart Gold randomized Nuzlocke, went into the Elite Four. Team of 6 Pokemon, including, I think, 3 legendaries. I had a Darkrai, had an Entei, can't remember the third one. I had a Meganium, and I had 2 others. And the only one that came out of that Elite Four run was the Meganium. It was tanking attacks left and right. So going from Johto to the Kanto region in that game, it was the only surviving member. And since then, it's just kind of solidified itself in series and my community, and that's why it's my mascot. And obviously it's got the crown on his head because he's just an absolute king. So I like the fact that I've got a story behind my mascot. I do.
See, I like that. Whereas on the alternative, like, I don't think I've ever had an Arcanine in a Nuzlocke.
No.
It's always eluded me.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, he is hoping when you do eventually get one. Would you have a name for it?
Big Groudon.
What?
So I have always called Growlithe Groudon because that's the noise they make. They go Groudon.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, I get that. Oh.
So I've always referred to them as Groudons, and then obviously when they become an Arcanine, it's Big Groudon.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I want you to get one now. I really do. Okay, that's all the comments and questions for this week. And if you've got one, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube or by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com. So, Connor, what have you got coming up?
So, hopefully coming up very shortly will be my Worlds vlog video. We're finally getting towards the end of that. It's been a long time coming. I'm not sure if people are still interested in watching
I am.
much of it.
I am. Oh, looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, that's coming. And hopefully... Yeah, we'll leave it at that. That's what's coming out. Oh, and of course, sometime soon we're going to be doing that charity sleep lock.
Nice.
That I mentioned previously.
That sounds absolutely fantastic, and I will be there. Maybe not for all of it, but I'll definitely be there. As for me, like, I'm not going to plug anything. I'm just going to say what I've been doing lately. I've gone back into shiny hunting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not on live stream or anything like that, because I've live streamed shiny hunting before, and it's typically one of the least viewed pieces of content on my channel. So I'm not doing it. I'm just doing it in my personal time. So at the moment, I've got this is where like, so I was shiny hunting a Regirock on Pokemon Sword in the DLC because I was like, right, okay, I want to get Regieleki, but you know what? Let's try and get the shinies for the other Regis first. And then I suddenly realized, hold on, why am I doing it on Pokemon Sword? Because it's quite slow. I've got a 3DS, and I'm at the end of the game in Ultra Sun, and therefore I can do the Ultra Wormholes where you can get all the legendaries, all the Ultra Beasts, or not the mythical, sorry, but you can shiny hunt in that, and running into a Pokemon, resetting, and loading it back up is quicker in the 3DS than it is on the Nintendo Switch. So at the moment, I'm just like, between whenever I'm like watching TV or I'm just relaxing, I'm just doing that. Currently I'm trying to get a shiny Zapdos. Because one day, I would love to have a living dex of all shiny Pokemon. That's a dream of mine one day.
That's a hell of a dream. I'm not sure I'll ever get there.
No, it's one of the reasons why I'm still playing Pokemon Go, because the shiny odds, especially on community days, seem to be that ridiculously good. Like it's most community days I will catch the shiny Pokemon, including enough for the evolutions as well. It's very rare that I'll come out of a community day and I've got either 0 or just 1. It does happen, but not very often. And that's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just the top dollar, aren't you? Conor, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget or on Twitter at CapFidget.
Perfect. And I'm Ben. You can find me as Professor Hoenn on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. As for the Goldenrod Podcast, you can find us on the usual platforms. Search for Goldenrod Podcast on YouTube or on your usual podcast app. Leave a like on YouTube or a 5-star review if you're listening as a podcast. We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content. See ya!